Okay. Good to everybody. Hope the Yontif as well. We were discussing the Petira, the day of Rebbe's Petira. Rebbe was Mitzvah's children, and we're in the middle of that. So we're on Kuf Gimel Amid Beis. Kuf Gimel Amid Beis. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom towards the end of the line. Kuf Gimel Amid Beis. Amalehem Amalehem Lebnei Katan Anit Sarach. He said to the people, Rebbe said, I need my younger son. So Nichnas Reb Shimon Etzlai, Reb Shimon Rebbe came. So and Masalei Seder Chachma, he gave them Seder Chachma. I saw a shot that the Meisim Merkava, the more hidden esoteric things he gave over to him. Amalehem Lebeni God Lanit Sarach. Rebbe said to his attendants, I need what? My older son. Nichnas Rebbe Gamliel Etzlai, Umasalei Sidrei Nesias. He gave him the Seder of the Nesias. Amalai said, Beni, Noeg Nesias Secha Biramim. You should go ahead and be Nas. Rashi says you should be among exalted people. Zorik Mara B'Talmidim, and you should place fear in the Talmidim. The Nasi should place fear in his Talmidim. It is really show that the Nasi is the Masori, is the king. So is it really true that the Nasi, that the king should go ahead and place fear? Vaksiv, it says Vasiri Hashem Yichabe, Vamamar Zoya Shafid Melech Yehuda, Kishul Roya Talmud Chacham, he would get up from his throne. He would kiss, he would hug him. He would kiss him. Rebbe Mari. So you see, obviously the king is not treating the Talmud Chacham with Yira. So why is the Rebbe telling his son that it's going to be the Nasi to go ahead and rule with, place more in the Talmidim? There's Gemara, it's not a problem. The way you act openly, publicly, that's what I'm commanding you. Publicly, you have to have a certain persona. But sinna clandestinely behind closed doors, then what? Then you can be much more emotional, and that's show this fear. Tanya, Rebbe Mutal b'tzipurei, umakam muchan la b'beit sharim. Rebbe was dying in Sipurei, and the place of his kfura was in Beit Sharim. So it's mashma he lived in Sipuri, and he was going to be buried in Beit Sharim. Fred Gemara about Tanya says tzedek tirdoi folach acha Rebbe lebeit Sharim. It's mashma that what Rebbe lived in Beit Sharim. He did not live what in Sipurei. So the Gemara answers Rebbe Beit Sharim He Taka lived in Beit Sharim. Alakim in the Cholash, once he got sick, Am Tuye the Tzipurei. They brought him to Tzipurei because the Medalia, it was a high place. Uvasi Avira, and I guess the air was kind of sweet. So in other words, it's a better environment for his disease. Hahu Yumad Noach Nafshe, the day the Rebbe was nifta, Gaz Rabbanat Hanisa, they were Gozer Tanis, Uboy Rachmi, Va'amri Kolman the Amma Noach Nafshe, the Rebbe Yudka Becher. Anyone who would tell us that Rebbe was Noach Nafshe, he should be literally pierced with a sword. There's mashma that they wanted to daven, and no one should have it bad news, and this davening, this tefillah would keep Rebbe alive. Salika Amsei the Rebbe Leigra, the Rebbe, the maidservant Rebbe went up to a roof, and Amra, she said, Al Yoinim Mevakshim Es Rebbe, the Yoinim, the upper world wants Rebbe, but Tachtainim Mevakshim Es Rebbe, and the Tachtainim also what are on Mevakshim Rebbe, right? Name Mevakshim Rebbe. Yiratzan Sheikoifu Tachtainim Es El Yoinim, let the Tachtainim, this world that is davening for Rebbe to be saved, let him go ahead and overcome the world, the upper world that wants his neshama. Even the Chazir Kama Zimni the Ailabek Kisei, since she saw how many times Rebbe had to go to the base of Kisei, the Cholatz Tefillin had to take with Tefillin as a result. Umanach Lahu Ukamitstayer Amra. She decided that the life that Rebbe was having, the terrible Yisurim that he was ongoing, the intestinal Yisurim that he was undergoing, said that the upper world should overcome, and she was and she felt that it was better that Rebbe should leave this world with the Yisurim he was going through. I think the Gemara says that Rebbe did not. I don't know if it's in this Masech. I think it might be Rebbe didn't have machmanis on a sheep, and as a result, the sheep was going to be taken as a korban, and Rebbe said, "Don't feel bad." And it's such a ma'isa. As a result, Rebbe suffered from terrible intestinal disorder. So this is the Gemara is alluding to that. So it says, "Shaski Rabbanu Miliboy Rachmei," and the Chacham was still davening. She wanted Rebbe to die to alleviate his pain, and they were still davening. And their tefillah was keeping Rebbe alive. So Shakla Kuza, she took a pitcher, and Shad Yomi Igr, she threw it off the roof La'ara to the ground, and it broke. Ishtiku, right? Mirachme, they stopped davening at that period in time. B'noyach nafshei the Rebbe. So he's very similar. Rebbe was the descendant of David HaMelech, right? We have the Gemara in Shabbos that tells us that David knew he was going to die in Shabbos, and he was learning the whole Shabbos. He didn't stop learning, and the Malach HaMavos came to get him, and then he had to go ahead and make a tree, make a sound stop, and that sound startled David for that second, and David, he was able to take some neshama. So it's interesting. The Rebbe, who was the descendant of David, suffered a similar fate. Amulei Rabbanu Lebakapara Zil Ayel. Go see what's with Rebbe. Ozil Ashkei Denach Nafshe. He came in Bakapara, came in, and he saw that Rebbe had been nifter. So that Rebbe had been nifter. And what did he do? So it says Bakapara Kare Levushe. He ripped his clothing. He ripped kriya. But he turned it around. So when he walked in, people not see it. Pasach Omar, he began saying, Arelim the Malachim, Arelim Malachim, Mutsukim Tzadikim, Achsu Ba'arin, HaKodesh. They're holding on to the Aron HaKodesh. Nitzchu Arelim es HaMutsakim. And the Arelim, the angels, they overcame what? The Tzadikim. The Nishba Aron HaKodesh. The Aron HaKodesh was captured. So he's cryptically saying that Rebbe was Nifta. So Amulei Noach Nafshe, they said to Bakapara, Rebbe was Nifta. Amulhu, Asan Karmisai Vanolo Kamina. Right? You said it, I didn't say it. I guess, a person does not want to meet the bearing of beer tidings, he didn't want to say anything. B'shas Pitiras Shal Rebbe, Zakef Esratz Boisav Klape Maila. As Rebbe was leaving this world, he put his 10 fingers Klape Maila. Amar Rabbeinu Shleilam, Golabi Yadul Fenecha, Sheagati Be'esratz Boisai B'Torah. I delved with all my 10 fingers in Torah. Nanesi, I feel about Katana. I didn't know how to have katana. Rebbe was exceedingly wealthy, guys. Rebbe, there's in Parshas Toldos, it says Shnei Geim Bevitnech. It's the Shnei Geim Bevitnech. It says that Rivka was told you have 2 nobles in your stomach, and the nobles, Rebbe says, the Rashi says was symbolic of Rebbe and Antoninus. Rebbe coming from Yaakov, and Antoninus coming from Esau. And it says they were so wealthy, like Posik, it didn't stop. They were able to get snoin and radishes. They were able to get lettuce. They were able to get seasonally. They were able to get fruit, different vegetables, and different things at different times because of their wealth. So Rebbe, when Rebbe says he didn't have any hana in this world with using his wealth, it's a statement, because everything he did was he used all this wealth to gather together all the Talmidei Chacham of the time to go ahead and get the correct text of the Torah Sheval Peh, which was again Rebbe's the greatest accomplishment. Is the Hefer Torah Secha, we wouldn't have the Gemara without Rebbe. We wouldn't have anything without Rebbe. Rebbe put down the Torah Sheval Peh, and he used all this finances, all these resources to bring all the different Tanaim together to get the exact. Again, it was Baal Peh. Once anything's Baal Peh, there was different gearses, as we can see, like Tosefta and Sifra and Sifri and Brises. We have so many different Yerushalmi have so many different texts of what's going on. So Rebbe used all his resources for that. He wrote some of Shehi Shalom b'Menuchasi. May be will in front of you that there should be shalom in my petira. Yatsa Baskal Bam Rabaskal came out and said, Yavai Shalom, the Yenuch al Mishkavaisam. So it says, Yenuch, let come in peace, and they should be what? They should rest on their beds. Fred Gemara al Mishkavcha may boil. It shouldn't say Mishkavaisam plural, it should say Mishkavcha, yours. The Messiah of Chia Bagamda, Dama Rav Chia Bar Gamda, Rav Yosi. Ben Shol, B'Shosha, Tzadik, Niftim in Olam, the time at Tzadik is nifted from this world. Oimir Malachi Asharis, the Malachi Asharis say, Pnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shleilam, Tzadik Ploini Ba, Tzadik so and so is coming. Amalahem, so Rebbeinu Shalom says to the Tzadikim, Yavoyed Tzadikim, let the Tzadikim come. V'yatzer the Krosai, they should go greet him. V'oim, they would say to him, Yavoy B'Shalom, they should say to him, come and Shalom. Right? Yavai Bishalom and Yenucha Mishkavaisam, and the tzaddikim then go back to their bed. So it's like break it up into 2 words. Yavai Bishalom is what they tell what they greet the tzaddik, and then Yenucha Mishkavaisam, they go back after greeting the tzaddik. They go back to their rightful places. They go back to their rightful places, and that's why it says lashon of Rabbin. Amr V'Laza B'Shosha Tzaddik Niftim in Olam. Shalis Kipe Shel Malchi Asharis Yoitzel L'Krasai. when a tzaddik leaves the world, three bands of groups of Malachei Asheris, they go ahead and greet him. They go ahead and greet him. Achas emeres leiboid b'shalom, the achas emeres hoylech nichachai, that they should go straight, right? They should, the end of the pasuk should go straight. The achas emeres lei yavai shalom yinuchal mishkavaisa, and that's what it says about the tzaddikim. That's what it says about the tzaddikim. They should go yavai b'shalom, and they should go nichachai. They should go be yasher. Amar Belaza. What about the Russia? What about the Russia? The Shosha Russia never min ha'olam. Sholish kita shel malchei chavala yotzes the prostate. Three groups of malchei chavala, angels of chavala of destruction, come to greet him. Achas emeres ain't shalom Hashem b'shoyim. There's no peace. Hashem says to Rishoyim. The achas emeres like one says l'ma'at seva yishkav. Go lie down in sorrow. The achas emeres like one says to him redod the hashkiva esarelim. Go down and lay down with the Arelim, those who are fashtup, their hearts are fashtup, the people who don't go ahead and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the end of the Ma'aseh with Rabbi. Okay, so we know that the Almana gets ksuba, she gets Tosefes ksuba. She says as long as she doesn't claim a ksuba, she gets mizaynos. Now we're going back. What's the statute of limitations on a ksuba? What's the statute of limitations on a ksuba? How long does she have to collect the ksuba before we say that she doesn't want it? So the Mishnah needs a beer from the Gemara, but we'll throw in. I looked at the Rambam; it's very clear over here. Kol sheman shehi bebeis avia. Now she could be in one of two places. She can be still living with her husband, who's dead, in his house, or she can go back to daddy. So kol man shehi bebeis avia goy b'ksuvas loylam. There's no statute of limitations as long as she's living with her father. Interesting enough, she goes from her husband's house to her father's house. There's no statute of limitations. She can collect that ksuba anytime. However, the whole time she's in her husband's house, it's 25 years. She has 25 years. Now, why is that? Why would be the distinction? Says the Mishnah. Rashi brings that we assume that she has been taking money from the estate to help people throughout these 25 years. So she's been helping people. So she would have gone ahead and gone through a ksuba. If she's in her father's house based by law, so she doesn't have access to the funds of the Yisayim. However, if she's in the house of the Beis Baila, she has access to the funds, and she's been using them to go ahead and give tzedakah and different things. So therefore, says Remeya, in the name of Rishon Gamliel, she would have used up ksuba had she been the Beis Baila. The Chachamim the opposite. Calls man she bebeis baila goy b'ksubasa lo'olam. Calls man she bebeis avia goy b'ksubasa at eser v'chameis shanim. For 25 years. Now the svara is like this, guys. The svara is that a woman, if she lets 25 years go by without collecting the ksuba, she's Michael the ksuba. So if that's the case, what's the distinction between her husband's house and her father's house? In her husband's house, she's living there, and they're doing the taiva for her. They're taking care of her. They're sheltering her. They're giving mezainis. So really, she wants a ksuba, but she's embarrassed to ask. So therefore, her failure to say anything for 25 years is not indicative of her being Michael, because again, she's embarrassed to go ahead and ask for a ksuba. After all, look what you're doing so much for me. Masha ain't came if she's in her father's house and they're not doing anything. So clearly, she should be asking for a ksuba, and if she doesn't ask for 25 years, she's Michael the ksuba. So like Reb Meir and Reb Shimon Gamliel, it has to do with using up the ksuba by giving away piecemeal, and therefore that would only transpire in the Beis Baal, but on Beis Aviyah. It's the opposite svara according to the Chachamim. No, we're not worried about using a Taivas Hana. What we're worried about is Mechila. She's more apt to go ahead and say she's Michael in the Beis Aviyah by not claiming than in Beis Baila, because Beis Baila, she's not, the fact that she's quiet is not Michael. The fact that she's quiet is the fact that she's embarrassed to ask for it. That's the svaras hamachloikus between the two. Mesa, if she dies, Yasha maskirin ksubasa eser chamishanim. Those who inherit a ksuba, they also would get 25 years. So the Gemara asks right away, you're telling me there's a 25 years, and you're not making a distinction between people. And what's the svara? The svara, like the Tanakama, is you're using it up. So Amalei Abaya, Rabbi Yosef, Ani Yeshev Yisrael at Esim V'Chavei Shonim Umarta bas Baisus ad esem v'chamishanim. Marta bas Baisus was one of the richest women we know from the famous Gemara in Ezekiel and in Gittin. She's the one who Yeshua ben Karcha. She bought Yeshua ben Gamla. She bought the Kuna Gedola for her husband. She's a very wealthy woman. So you're telling me the following: you have the same statute of limitations, 25 years, and you're going to use it up, no matter how much money they have. In other words, the poor people are going to use X amount, and this one's going to use. How can you give a carte blanche statement? It should be predicated upon the person's status, right? But you're saying it's the same, 25 across the board. Amalei. So Rabbi Yosef told Abaya, "L'fum gamla shichna." According to the camel, is its load. Rashi says that the more money a person has, the more taivas and she will go ahead and use, and therefore, the ratio wise, it's the same. Over 25 years, whether the size of the ksuba is a small ksuba like small regular people, or a large ksuba like Marta bas Baisus, based upon their status, the financial status, that's the amount they're going to use up. So therefore, the from gamla, according to the camel, metaphorically, is speaking about is the load. Can you do you divide up? Do you divide up the years? Do we say that do we say that that you're saying you go over a period of time? So Rashi says, in other words, would you go ahead and divide up this 25 years into periods of 8, 8, 8, 8 and a third, 8 and a third, 8 and a third, and therefore would you do that? And the answer is Teku. The whole time she's the base Phyla, she's not Michael, she's too embarrassed to be Michael. With Beis Avia, after 25 years, she's Michael. Amoy Abayla Rabbi Yosef. Asoy koidim shkiyas achama goyvik subasa. 25 years is the cutoff point. If she comes before shkia of the 25 years, she collects. Liacha shkiyas achama legavya. It would appear to be a bit bahi purta achilta with that little period of time when she's Michael. I mamish don't hear the kasha. I don't hear the kasha. In other words, if you have X, people procrastinate, right? You go up to the last moment. The bottom line is, if she gets in the door beforehand, yeah, and if the store is closed, the store is closed. But anyway, the Gemara seems to say it seems to be like, why such a small period of time would make such a significant difference? So Amalei Rabbi Yosef told Abaya in Kol Midas Chachamim Kain, all the Midas of the Chachamim like that. All right, Ba'aboyim saw a toivel that a mikvah is for, you can be toivel in Abayim saw, and Chasa Kurtiv ain't Yachal Lifel Behen. And if it's missing even a mashu, a little bit, you're not able to be toivel in it. Your body is covered in everything. It doesn't make a difference. The share of a mikvah is 40 sa. The share of mechil is 25 years. Plain pasha correct. Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Hey Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Lefnei Rabbi, right? Sha'ama Mishum Aviv, the name Rabbi Yossi. Lo Shanu, that we say that she has 25 years. Ela she'ein shtar ksuba yoytze mitachas yodeha. The shtar ksuba is not coming underneath her hand. Aval shtar ksuba yoytze mitachas yodeha. If she does have a ksuba, goy b'ksuvasei la'olam, she can collect it forever. Because if she was meichelis, she would have given it up. Guys, if she was Michael the Ksuba, she would have given it up. Our Mishnah, the Rambam learns, is speaking of a place where they didn't write a Ksuba. We had earlier in the Masechta, there were places they didn't write Ksubas, right? It was a Tanai Bezdin, it's Tanai Bezdin, right? The 200 of Ksubas are Tanai Bezdin, no ifs, ands, or buts. The question is whether you write it up or not, but it's always there. So the ratio could be, the Mishnah could be Pashut speaking in a case where what? Where they didn't write a Ksuba. And that, Shanu, that what? That we say 25 years, this doesn't have a ksuba. But in a place where you do write a ksuba, and if you have a ksuba in your possession, then it will make a difference whether you have a base baila or base avia. It doesn't make a difference. Why? Because if you were Michael the ksuba, you would have gone ahead and produced it. This is according to the shita of the chachamim. Rabbi Lozo, I feel shtar ksuba yotzim dachas yudaha ein goyve elad esem v'chamesh. Okay, that's Rabbi Lozo. The most of Rabbi Sheshes. Rabbi Sheshes is going to ask on the opinion of the Tanakam, on the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Bal Chayiv Goyve Shaloi Baskara. A Bal Chayiv, without mentioning the debt, is able to collect. Now, what does that mean without mentioning the debt he's able to collect, right? Rashi says, if he's quiet for 25 years and he doesn't say anything, he doesn't lose his life. Now, if you say the Baal Chayv does not have a star, in my Gavi, how can he possibly collect? Obviously, to collect, he must have a star. And the diik is, Ela de Nakat Shtara. And what's the diik? Hu Baal Chayv hu, the Lav Barachuli hu, Almana Achilta. So he's asking on Rabbi Yossi. He's asking, you see, this din of mechila, of holding on to a star that it's Niyam Michael, is limited to a Baal Chayv. The inference being an Almana, with the difference being the Almana, you would be limited. The Almana, in fact, would be able to go ahead and would not be able to collect. Only the Baal Chayv could collect, not the Almana. Says the Gemara, who Ma'asivla Mufarikla. He asked the question, Rav Sheshes asked it, and he answered it. La'olam deloy naket shtar. The Baal Chayv doesn't have a star. So how could it collect? It's speaking where the loiv was maida. In other words, Einachinami, if he would have had a star, we wouldn't be limited to the Baal Chayv. Even the Almana would be able to collect, like Rav Yossi's did. This din that says that the Baal Chayv could collect and not the what? And not the Almana is speaking where there was no star. Says the Gemara, V'amar v'loi shoinin Garush, we learned Shoinin Garusha Harihika Baal Chayv. A Garusha is like a Baal Chayv, in Gevia. Nahechidami. If she doesn't holding a ksuba, my gavya, what are you collecting? You tell me a Garusha is like a Baal Chayv. Why is she collecting if she doesn't have ksuba? El must be lav, the nakida ksuba, there must be she has a ksuba. The Garusha he the lav barachilahi. And the reason a Garusha collects because she's not someone who's Michael. Almana, even though she had a star, achilta would be right, would be Michael. So hachanami k'shechayv maida. The same teretz. It's speaking with the chayv's maida. So that's the bottom line. If a woman has a star, this whole mission is off limits. If the woman has a ksuba, we're not discussing this. Guys, if you've been married for more than 25 years, then you should be off the hook. Guys, if you're married more than 25 years, you should be off the hook. Elamai, what do you see? Supposedly, your wife knows what a ksuba is. Supposedly, hopefully, it's not hanging on the wall where you can get rid of it, right, wherever you can see it. And or go to Jack the Ksupa River. So, anyway, that's for another time. Amr Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Hani Rav Yehuda Bar Kaza, the Maslisan the Bar Kaza, Tava Ksubasa, if the woman is Taiveya HaKsuba, Harihi Kibat Chila. In other words, it begins she gets the ball running again. Let's say at the 12-year mark, she goes ahead and says, you know what, I want to claim my ksuba. And they don't pay it up, she gets another 25 years if she doesn't say anything. So if she's tavei ksuba, the clock starts, it starts again. Again, this is the dinner of Rav Yossi, and if you have the ksuba, you'll be able to collect forever. Shalach le Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. Yilmedeinu Rabbeinu kisheshtar ksuba yotzim mitachas yoda. Machlokes, is that the machlokes? Or kishein shtar ksuba yotzim mitachas yoda. The Mishnah that says, our Mishnah is speaking where there is a ksuba, not a ksuba. And v'alacha k'derei, and is the halacha like the Tana? It's like Rabbi Remeya, and speaking of the difference between base baila we're more machmir, or is the halacha like a chamin that we're more makel in base baila? V'alacha k'derei mi shalach lei b'shein shtar ksuba yotzim mitachas yoda. Machlokes. The machlokes is what? When there's no shtar. Aval shtar ksuba yotzim mitachas yoda goyv ksuba saloilam. Again, that seems to be final. That as long as she has a ksuba, you're on the hook. That the base baila, she's what? She's not only the 25 years without a ksuba is only when she's base avia. But the base baila, even without a ksuba, she would be able to collect. Guys, base baila, why? Because again, she's embarrassed to go ahead since they're doing a toiva. She's living with the assignment. She's embarrassed to ask. So 25 years, there's no statute of limitations with base baila without a ksuba. Kiyasser of Dimiam, Rav Shimon ben Paziam, Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Mishum bar Kapara, Loishanu elamano Masayim. This halacha that it's under discussion whether the statute of limitations on a ksuba is only on the ikka ksuba of the 200 or the 100. Sefes, any extra that a person would write in the ksuba, yeshla, then she would get. That's he holds it's a matana. and a matan is not subject to mechila. You're giving her a present. So since it's not a chiyuv, it's not a t'nai bezdin. It's what you decided to give. It's not subject to the statute of limitations of 25 years. That's the statement of Rabbi Shua Levi named Bakapara. Rabbi Avo and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Avo says, "Ne Rabbi Yochanan, afilo teisefes ein lo." The statute of limitations applies to even the teisefes of the ksuba, the additional part. The Omer of Ivoy, Omer of Yanai, t'nai ksuba is ksuba dani. The t'nai ksuba we had earlier in the Masechta is like ksuba, and teisefes is the t'nai ksuba. And just like the ksuba has a statute of limitations of 25 years, so too the teisefes will be subject to the same halacha. Itmanami, Amar Abba, Amar Huna, Amar Abba, Leishanu Elamana Messiah. This din of 25 years is only one of Messiah. Aval Teisefes Yeshla. So it says Rabbi Huna in the name of Rab, that Rab says that she would be able to get to Teisefes. So Amar Le Reb Abba Rab Huna, Amar Rav Hachi, said Rab Abba. The Rav Huna is reporting what Rab said. So he said, Amar Rav Hachi, did Rab really say this? Amar Le, so Rav Huna said, Ishtikin karmit. So he didn't say anything. So Amalei, Ishtikin karmit or Ashkayin karmit? Are you being silent because I'm correct, or you're saying Ashkayin or Lashon, give me a drink because you like what I said? So Amalei, Ishtakin karmit. I'm being quiet. I've never said this. In other words, the Tosefes Ksuba would have the same din as the Ksuba, and it'd be subject to the limitation of 25 years. Okay, the Gemara now concludes the perek with a Maisa, fascinating Maisa. I'm amazed at the alumnus of this woman. You're going to see this woman was an impressive lady. I must say the Rav Chia Aricha. His name was Rav Chia Aricha. He was very tall, and it was his mother-in-law. And Insis Achua Have. She was the wife of his brother. So his mother-in-law. So he had married his brother's niece. So his mother-in-law was his mother-in-law was his brother's wife. Good. Now he's going to inherit his brother. He's going to inherit his brother. So Chamasei Rav Chia Aricha Insa Achua Have was the almana bebeis avia Have, and she was the almana bebeis avia, and this mother, his mother-in-law's husband, his brother died, so now his mother-in-law is an almana. She's living in her parents' house, and he, being the Irish, is supporting her. Right? He's the yasam. He's not a yasam. He's the Irish over here. They had no children, so he's supporting. So Rav Chia Aricha is supporting his mother-in-law, his mother-in-law, who was his brother's wife. Now, so I don't know what factors the mother-in-law with the story, but I really don't know. It doesn't play out, as we're going to see. Says the Gemara. So what happened? So she was living in Vizona Esmech Hameshanim B'Beinasha, and he supported her in her father's house for 25 years. L'soif, at the end of 25 years, Amrullah told his mother-in-law, Havli Mizayni. She said to him, "Give me Mizaynis." Amrullah, "Less the Mizayni." That's it. So Havli Ksuba, Amrullah, Lay Mizayni Yislach, Lay Ksuba Yislach. I guess it was a place they didn't write Ksuba. The halach is like the Chachamim, that if you're for 25 years and you don't mention anything, it's Mechila, right? If all the boxes fit in, right? We're speaking about a pace where obviously they didn't write a ksuba, because if she had a ksuba, there's nothing to talk about. The halach is like the chachamim, that the 25 years is only where the base aviyah, not the base baila. Clearly, the case was she was living the base aviyah. She was not living with there was no one to live with. Wasn't living there, and therefore she's subject to the 25 years statute of limitations, not only of the ksuba, but the tonight ksuba as well. So she doesn't get the mizaynis either. So she's out. It would appear to be clear cut, easy psak. But as Gemara goes, it's never clear cut. There's always a little knech. Okay, now, so Tavate Ladina, Kame de Rabba Bar Shila. So the mother-in-law brought Chia Aricha to a din Torah to Rabba Bar Shila. Amalei, so Rabba Bar Shila said, Emily easy gufa de of the hechav. He said to Chia Aricha, tell me exactly what the facts of the case. So Amalei, Zinasa Esrim v'chameshana v'nenasha, she in her father's house. I supported her for 25 years. V'chaye demar, and I swear in the life of Mar of Rabbi Bar Shila, the bekatfoy am toile. I carried it with my own shoulders to her. In other words, I mamish, not only did I give her, I didn't send anybody. I physically carried over the food for 25 years. So Amalei said Rabbi Barshila to Rabbi Chia Arichta, Time of my Rabbanon calls Manshi bebeis baila goyvik subas loilam. The Amina mission kisufuhu leitava. Why is she not tayvei for 25 years when she was bebeis baila, guys? She'd feel like an ingrate, right? You're taking such good care of her. It would be like it's an embarrassment to ask for the ksuba, but it's not a raya. You were Michael the ksuba. You just were embarrassed to ask. So Rabbi Barshila said, "Hachanami mishum kisufuhu leitava." Zil Havla. In other words, since you were so nice to her by being Uber Eats and bringing her food all the time, she was embarrassed to ask for it. But it's not a raya that she was Michael. So it's a fascinating. Rabbi Bashila is giving an unbelievable psak. He's using the svara of why bebeis baila. It's not a mechila because she's embarrassed. So in this situation, the same svara applies. She would be embarrassed to go ahead and be tavei ksuba since Chia Aricha was so nice to her by delivering food to her every day. So said Rabbi Bashila, that's why she wasn't Michael ksuba. She wasn't taveya because she was embarrassed. Fascinating. Says the Gemara Le'ashkech. Rabbi Chia Aricha wasn't buying this. So Kosovla Adrachta. So what did Rabbi Bashila do? He wrote a shtar Adrachta. Guys, a shtar Adrachta is you're able to go ahead and go to Mishubadim now. Anything that was Meshubad the Kasuba, the Shtar Adrachta says there's a lien on this property I can collect. So Rabbi Rashila was going through, he wasn't having anything to do with Rabbi Chia Arich, not listening to him. He wrote for this mother-in-law a Shtar Adrachta, and she now has the ability to go only for Mishubadim for the liens that from her dead husband. Guys, very important. She can't go to the property of Rabbi Chia Aricha because she's not no shaykhs to his property. She can only go back to Rabbi Chia Aricha's brother, right? That's Mishubadim, go back to the brother. So anyway, and Nichse on his property. Asla kamei the Rava. Now Rabbi Chia Aricha came in front of Rava. Amalei chazimar heichin denan. Look what Rabbi Bashila did. Look what he judged me. Amalei shaped. Said Rava, guess what? He judged you well. He judged you well. The same svara applied, that she was embarrassed. Amrulei. So listen to this woman. Ihachi lezel lahadli peri deminahu yuma ad idna. Give me the paris that land produced from the time that you started draining around. The woman said, it's not enough to give me a property. I want the paris that would have been on that property the whole time. If you had you given it to me when you're supposed to give it to me. Amalei. So Rabbi said to her, Achlilei adrachtech. Go ahead now. I want to see your shtar adracha. I want to see what it's written over there. That's what he told them. So Achvile adrachte, she showed him the shtar adracha. Chazia Rabbi saw lehavi kosev bei. It was missing a clause. It was missing the words v'ish tamadana. That means, and we the bezdin the nechassim elu the misna inon. And that we know that the properties are the adrachta against the mislan, the guy who's dead. In other words, the shtar adrachta has to say exactly where she can go from, and it was missing that the word saying that you can collect from the dead man's property, because this shtar adrachta is betois is mashma you can collect from any property, even Chia Arich's property, right, guys? Here, the son-in-law's property is not meshubah to the ksuba of the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law was married to his brother. From this shtar adrachta, it's mashma, you can even collect from his property, because it didn't say from the property of the dead person. That was the problem. So Amallah, so therefore he said, adrachta lav shapir ksiva. Rabbi said that this is not good, and therefore what? Because mashma collecting from Chia's fields. So Amaleh, she said to Rabbi, hazel adrachta, forget the adrachta. Ishkul miyoyim deshlimi yuma achrosa arashta. Let me take again. There was a public achraza on these fields, meant to sell it from that time. So therefore, from the time of the achraza, forget the court case. From the time of the achraza, let me collect the paris. So Amalei Rabbi said that you don't understand. It's not pshat that you can't collect from the shubadim from the time of the court case. You can't collect, period. In other words, you can't collect, period, using the shtar. It doesn't work. Why? Because this shtar is mashma, you can collect from any lands, even Chia's lands, and Chia's lands and Amashivah to you. So he said to Hani milehechid like ksiv to usiba drachta. That's when you can collect when it's not a mistake. Aval hechid ksiv to usiba drachta less lamba. Therefore, there was nothing. The fact that you went ahead, you had a public auction and all of that, it doesn't make a difference because you can't go ahead and you couldn't get this field using this drachta. So Amalei, she said, for Mahu Dama Achrayas Tasaifa, Rava, you always say Achrayas is Tasaifa, right? We spoke about a person sells a field, right? Is Achrayas, obviously a person's not going to go ahead and lend a person money unless what is, I said sell a field, forget to sell a field. A person's not going to go ahead and lend money unless there's Achrayas, right? Or he sells a field by Achrayas. Any deal you want collateral that's going to take, and what happens if it's not? So there's machloikis whether it's a mistake or not. Rava, you hold it's a mistake. So let's apply the same thing to this adrachta. It was a mistake, but what does it mean? To collect from the mishubadim of the dead man. That's what it means. So Amalei, she said to him, "But mahu dama achrayis tayisayfahu." So Amalei Rava said to her, "Behol lekel meima tayisayfa." Here you can't say it. The behol afilu Rabbi Bar Shila toy meikara. Rabbi Bar Shila blew it. Now, why did Rabbi Bar Shila blew it? Because he didn't make a distinction between Rabbi Chia's lands and the dead person's lands. Here's the mistake. Husava hani v'hani didei. He thought that Rabbi Chia's lands, right, and the lands that he got from his brother, they both belong to him. Mali mahani. The bottom line is, right now, right, there's a chiyuv to collect. Who is the chiyuv by? The chiyuv to pay up is by Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia inherited his brother, right? Now, we know that the only part of the land that you could collect from is the land that was meshubed. You can't collect from the other one, right? And Rabbi Bar Shila said, what's the difference? Why? He thought you could. Now, what's the difference? The bottom line is, whichever land he gives, he's going to keep the other. If, let's say, he gives his own land, he's going to collect, he's going to keep the meshubed land. You got two parcels of land, A and B. A is the dead brother's land that he inherited. B is his own. Said Rabbi Shila, what's the difference? They're both worth, ostensibly, they're both worth the same price. They both will pay off the ksuba. Let him go ahead, collect B, so big deal. It's not, so that's what he held. But there's a mistake. Here's the reason for it. Veloihi, you can't collect from field B, guys. In my scenario, you have to collect from field A. Why? Because zimnan de ozol in what happens, she'll go ahead. She's figuring she's going to get field A. She can go ahead and be mishabeach field A. Udebaila michsafei, right? And excuse me, she's going to take care of field B, right? Let's say she takes care of field B, right? You know that you're going to get field B back because the only thing meshubed is field A. So what are you going to do? Guys, watch. I got two fields. She comes to takes my field. There's no way in the world she's getting my field. She's getting, the only thing meshubed is the dead person's field, which I inherited, right? So now she takes this one. Big deal, right? You're paying it off. She's going to go ahead and put money in and everything. I'm sitting there saying, this is great. Because you know what? As soon as I use up this field, that's meshubed, I'll say, 1 second, babe, let me have it back. She's now going to get messed up. She's going to get a bad field back, and I'm going to get a field back. So therefore, you can't just say A and B, big deal, you're paying it off, because only really A is meshubed. And therefore, if she collects B, I'm in the driver's seat. Let her improve B, and then I'll abuse A, and then I'll give it back A. So here's the lashon of the Gemara one more time. V'loihi, it's not comparable. Why? Zimnin the ozlu mishapkilahu. She'll get the field B that belonged to Chia, and she'll make it better. Udebaila mechisvei, and field A that they're going to just take advantage of. You know, they'll make it, let it grow fallow or just abuse it. But Amallah, and then Chia would say to her, Shakal didach v'havli didi. Take the property that's abused, because that's the one meshubed ksuba, and give me back mine that you improved. And as a result, people will come to speak in a negative way about Bezdin, that what? They didn't have the best takana for this woman in mind. And therefore, the whole case, this woman basically lost because the adrachta wasn't written up well. But what we do hear from the case, what's nageya us, is the svara, despite the fact that she was in her father's house, right, not the Baal's house, the svara of why a woman would not go ahead and and be Taivea Ksuba because of embarrassment is intact, and that is the svara. The location is not as important as the svara of would she go ahead and be embarrassed or not. That's the main story. Hadron Alecha Hanoisei, Hadron Alecha Hanoisei, Hadron Alecha Hanoisei. Thank you all for listening. A good job to everybody.